Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey everyone,
Hello, hello. Good to see you
welcome.
guys tonight.
Yep. So, in case we have anyone new watching this, I'm Anthony Fortner, and hopefully above me is Lee and O'Grady. Or do I have them switched?
No, you did it right. You're good.
All right.
At least it
Cool,
looked
cool,
right
cool.
on my screen. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How about this point? Lee
Yeah,
and
there you go.
O'Grady.
That works.
they're both
Mhm.
that way to
Our
me.
name.
Every time it's so difficult, but whatever.
Yep.
Everybody have a good week? It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah. The I got my booster shot yesterday. Feeling that, so I took the second half of the day off actually and just laid down and got up, played a little video games, and jumped on here. So try to just keep it easy. I got my water and staying hydrated.
Mm. So,
It's better
which
than COVID.
booster is this?
So
Isn't there like, yeah, oh, yeah.
this
I can
is
attest to that.
Moderna. So I had two Moderna for the primary shots, and then this one's I guess a half dose.
So, this is your third shot.
Third shot total. Yeah,
Yeah, so this is your second. This is your first booster. Okay, I was
first
just
booster.
curious because I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 now.
Moderna
Um,
I think is just three. I don't know if Pfizer's different in all those.
they're talking about the Omicron. That's probably why I'm thinking there's a fourth one.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I get
I
my
mean,
my booster jab tomorrow.
yeah.
That's right. Good luck to you.
Good
Yeah,
luck. Yeah, I think a
yeah.
lot of people it doesn't affect as much, but I got autoimmune issues, so I was kind of knowing it was gonna affect me a little more, but then at the same time, I didn't think it would affect me as much as it has. I guess it's been like real tired and achy.
I know the initial shot, especially the second part, is knocking people on their butts. Well,
Mine
Yeah.
was the
was knocking
first.
people on the butts.
My first
Really?
shot, I was out 3 days, um,
Wow.
and it was like couldn't move. I was in bed. It was like I had COVID, but it was like 3 days, and
Ooh.
then I was like, all right,
Oof.
felt better. But the second one didn't do anything middle. It's like okay,
Interesting.
Yeah, you got all the way in the first one. Your
I
immune
guess.
system went ahead and overreacted, and
Yeah,
you're good to go.
that's. I guess because it was so close to the last one. I don't know. I don't know how. It's not my kind of science to know about. But yeah. So tonight we have what are we going to talk about? Training resources and advancing your IT career. Lee, looking forward to hearing both of these. So, or I guess
Yeah.
discussing both of these.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna discuss. Yeah. I'm really excited. So, I like this topic because starting out as a new person in IT, and this doesn't relate just to new people in IT because you always need to find training resources, but I relate to it from the perspective of starting out because when you're starting out, you don't really know where to go.
The
Yeah.
hard part's knowing where to start.
Exactly. So I, so I'm excited about this. I really kind of struggled early on to find, good resources. And you never know, just because it's on the internet, doesn't mean that it's reliable. So,
So true this day and
what do you
age.
do? And when you're
Yeah.
starting out and you're just learning something, people can tell you bald-faced lies and you have no
Yeah.
idea.
And that's on reputable sites that you think you would be able to trust. But
Sometimes, yes,
yeah,
Or sometimes it was legitimately true, and it's just not now.
yeah,
that's true.
That's
Yes,
for me. That's really hard, especially when it comes to like database technology and SQL Server, because it's changed so much. Like some hard and fast rules are no longer true. Some are still true, and it takes a lot of digging to find out which one's true. Sometimes you got to figure it out yourself and just prove it to yourself.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's a great example because just today, or just this week, not today, but this week, I was looking at a SQL Server with a coworker, and we were looking at max server memory. Well, we were looking at server memory, and there's a max and a min setting in there, and then there's also a setting for uh, minimum uh, minimum RAM to give each query. And I could have sworn that that was 0. And when it came up, it said 1,024 kilobytes. I was like, what is this? And my coworker's like, what do you mean, what is this? It's always there. I'm like, I don't think so, but maybe I'm just wrong. I could have sworn it changed. I haven't verified that.
Oh, I didn't know if you looked at it yet. No.
And no, I haven't gone to try to verify if it changed somewhere. So, but yeah, I mean, there's just always things that pop up and you try to verify, and sometimes it's hard to verify information because you don't know who to trust because you don't know anything yet at the beginning, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Or even at the end.
yeah, so I'm going to pop a link into our chat here.
Okay.
And this goes to a blog post I wrote on finding SQL Server training resources. So this is going to be the kind of the outline. I'm using this blog post to talk about this subject. So when you don't know if you're in the Microsoft world, which I am, and you don't know who to trust, what the first thing I would recommend is go to the Microsoft MVP page. It's just mvp.microsoft.com/en-us. And look at, so on that page, there are different categories of MVPs, data platform and other varieties. I wish that well, let me just go look at it. So there's not just SQL Server stuff there, is I guess what I'm trying to tell you. And what I would want, our readers, our people in our chat and watching to know is it's not just about SQL Server. There's all kinds of technologies in there, and you can, sort and look for Microsoft MVPs in whatever category you're in IT. And a lot of those profiles that you'll find for folks will actually have, they will have links to their blog. They'll have links to speaking events. So maybe this person has spoken at, a number of conferences, and you can usually click those links to the conferences to find the videos where that person spoke and watch those videos. Or if it's not available, at least now you have the link of a conference that you could potentially watch next time if it's recurring. So I think, at least for Microsoft folks, mvp.microsoft.com is a great place to start to find people that you should be able to trust. Nobody's going to get it right all the time, of course, but those are going to be valuable resources that have information that's going to be reliable 80 or 90% of the time, I think.
And outside of Microsoft, other organizations, those big companies do the same thing. Oracle has their own list. IBM, if you're into the iSeries thing, they have the same links too. I remember being surprised, silly me, being surprised about that. It's because I just never hear about it because no one's talking about it. So thought I mentioned that too. If you're using technology that's connected to a big company, they probably have something similar, a list of professionals that they know are talking about it, or groups, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I did an internal presentation at a previous employer, and before I gave the presentation, I actually looked for something related to IBM because there's a group of people at that company who are on the IBM platform for databases, and I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, exactly, Anthony. IBM has something like, or similar to a Microsoft MVP. So it's really that was pretty interesting to me. So yeah, I mean, I would encourage you to start there. That's a good place, and in fact, I probably should use it a little more to just broaden even who I pay attention to now in terms of training. Even though I've been at this over 10 years now, there'll be resources on there. There'll be people that I don't know that could give me good information even now. So
Yeah. I updated the a link there, so if we ever want to refer to that link, we can do a explanation point recent, and I'll update any recent links as we discuss. So
okay,
let you guys know.
great. Thanks,
So,
Freddie.
oh, is it exclamation point recent?
Yes, in the beginning.
I did backwards, so noob.
There you go.
Boom. Cool.
So the next kind of category I wanted to talk about, and this is going to launch us into greater discussion, is paid video training. So
Yeah.
there
Yes,
are
feel free to pay me.
yeah. So there are lots of platforms out there, and I'm sure there are tons of platforms I don't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that I do know about that I could recommend because I've used them or I know about them fairly well, or that have good reputations, would be platforms like Pluralsight,
Oh yeah.
CBT
Mhm.
Nuggets,
Mhm.
A Cloud Guru, which was recently purchased by Pluralsight, and then also had this in my list of free because they used to have a category of videos that you could access for free, but pragmaticworks.com doesn't have free stuff anymore. It's all behind
I don't know.
a paywall now. But I've used their free stuff many years ago when I was getting into Power BI, when it was just an add-in to Excel.
Yeah.
I used Pragmaticworks to learn.
Back in the early days.
Yeah,
Back in the
back
day.
in there. Yeah, right after Dirt came into existence.
Yeah.
No, not that long.
No, it
But
was like
that's
the
actually
Stone
really-
Age. You're fine.
That was a really important event. People don't realize that dirt was very important to the
It was.
earth.
I'm sure.
Before that, it was
Sorry.
nothing but
Backing up.
rocks. You know?
Yeah, there was nothing to dig into, so plants had nothing to grab onto, so they couldn't. Anyway, welcome
Clearly
to
how it
SciShow.
went.
Just kidding. Great YouTube channel. by the way.
So, what's been you guys' experience with any of those platforms I named, or something else that you found useful?
So I
Yeah.
use Pluralsight on a daily. Like anytime I get a chance to train, since I have a paid Pluralsight account, I am always on there. They do have free stuff also, so you know
Every
there's-
company should give out plural, like plug. You know,
Yes, yes.
every company should give out Pluralsight. But
Yeah,
go
I
on. I'm
mean-
sorry. I just want to double down on that.
No, yeah, no. That's I think everywhere I've been that offered training was like, yeah, just use Pluralsight because they realize, well, we can hire people, we can do all this, or we can give you a license and say go do training. Probably cheaper on their end, and you know, better training than they can provide because of the breadth of it all. And then we
Yeah.
also have, you know, internal training. If your company offers internal training, I would jump on that as well. Like whenever I was even just kind of cross training with you guys, you know, that's important in IT to not be, let's say, pigeonholed
Yeah.
into one thing. So
Mhm.
For sure. What about you, Anthony? What's your experience with any or all of these platforms, or with something else?
Okay, so I want to talk about something else first because it ties into something you said. So, back when I think the first place that I ended up paying for access to training videos,
Mhm.
excuse me, was Linux Academy, and so a lot of like sysadmin type stuff on a Linux platform, but they got bought by a cloud guru. And as you just mentioned, a cloud guru got bought by Pluralsight. So it kind of went full circle. Another one that I use a lot is Udemy. I can't say a lot. Okay, so it seems like a lot because you pay for a video, right?
Yeah.
But so I've never paid for Pluralsight because employers have handled that. But Udemy, it's nice for when I have a specific technology I want to look up and the tutorials just aren't doing it for me.
Yeah.
Or I need someone to teach. So, you know, they have expensive ones, but usually the price comes down and I can get one for $5.99 or whatever. I used Udemy a lot to get my SQL Server certifications, even though SQL Server was on Pluralsight and there's tons of good things up there. I happened to find, you know, a video that I liked or whatever, paid the $6 to $15. You know,
Mhm.
I don't remember anything more than that, and do a couple of them, and then some of them better than others.
Yeah.
And I mean that from the point of view of like, I guess with Pluralsight, it's great, but then if there's like 2 or 3 people teaching Azure Synapse, well, you got those 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
But Udemy, it seems like, especially with SQL Server, I just had so many choices.
We have Deborah Carrata teaches every programming course you can find on Pluralsight, and she does a good job. But it's always funny because you're sitting there and I'm like, and the next course that I'm gonna do is Deborah Carrata again. Okay,
Yeah. I mean,
less
I would
choices.
complain. I would say, oh, I bet that gets boring, but I'll speak for myself here, and anyone wants to echo this, they can. Half of my training now is Brent Ozar. So like every time he pops up in a stream, I'm usually watching it. So
Yeah, for sure.
but he keeps entertaining.
And that brings up another point of you can also find really good YouTube videos as tutorials, as long as you can figure out, there's some out there that you don't want to listen to, obviously, but you can judge based off of the channel, how big it is, how many people have liked it or whatever they do on YouTube. I thought they took likes away or they took dislikes away or something.
It took dislikes away.
Yeah. So okay, you can go off how many people liked it still. Yeah. But you can find some good stuff on there. I was watching actually a video on 12 factor applications just yesterday on YouTube, and it's really good.
Yep. Yeah, and we're gonna talk about free video training as well. So that'll be a good segue in just a moment. I want to talk about something really quick before we go into free video training because of a decision I recently made, and it ties into something you said, Anthony, about using Udemy to focus on just whatever it is you need to learn right now. So I've had my own Pluralsight subscription for probably 10 years that I paid for personally. And even though at some companies I had the opportunity for the company I was at, my employer, to pay for it. And the reason I didn't opt into that is that I didn't want to lose access to what I had worked on through the training platform.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to stay at a company forever. I mean, I've got lots of years left to work. And so I just liked having my own. I could customize it, and I didn't lose all that customization. So
for which site was that?
This was Pluralsight. So in Pluralsight,
I have linked account in Pluralsight. So it's my account, a linked account. So it's my account, but then the company is like attached to it, and it's just a secondary account on my account. And then since they pay for the license, it goes to my account still. But it's my settings, it's all my history. Because that would suck losing all those scores you do and those little tests you take and stuff. Yeah, it looks good over a 5-year period, seeing that line go up. That sucks whenever you have to lose it.
Yeah,
but definitely look into that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I just found out obviously recently because I just started this new company recently. So it's just you add a secondary email and you add your company email, and the company says, "Hey, I'm paying a license for this email." Well, that's on my account.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I'll have to look into that for sure.
Yeah.
However, as I'm saying, I'm going to look into that. I recently decided not to continue my Pluralsight subscription, not because it's not good stuff. It's fantastic stuff. For SQL Server, for instance, so for SQL Server, if you want to learn things like joins, like Spirit mentions in the chat, or other T-SQL type topics, there are top of the line, top notch experts on Pluralsight, people that have worked at companies like SQLskills.com and have gone on to work at Microsoft. So for those who are not familiar with SQL Skills, SQL Skills was started, I believe, by Kimberly Tripp, and then later her husband, Paul Randall, joined her. They both worked at Microsoft, and I don't know what Kimberly's contributions were at Microsoft. I'm sure they were enormous. I just am familiar with Paul's. He actually wrote parts, or maybe the entirety, of CheckDB and other processes there that are integral parts of SQL Server. And they both have access to current premier tech support folks. So they have an inside track into SQL Server support and ideas and the direction of SQL Server. And they run this company called SQLskills.com.
Okay.
Well, they have tons of courses on Pluralsight, not only from the two of them, but from folks like Tim Radney, I believe, has stuff on there. He works at Pluralsight. There's a person whose name I can't.
Does Steve Smith do any on SQL for Pluralsight?
Steve Smith?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. He has like a podcast, and I have actually one of his stickers on my laptop, the From Dev Up. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I didn't know if he was on the networking side as well, because he does a lot of programming, but outside of programming too. So he seems kind of like a well-rounded speaker. But just curious. Continue.
That's okay. The reason I decided to drop it is because I've had this subscription for years and I just don't use it. Like, not anymore. And
Mhm.
and I could, and maybe I should, but the reality is I'm not using it. And I can tell myself, well, I'm going to get in there and use this thing. I'm paying for it. That's not going to work. I know
Yeah.
myself. So I like
Focus.
I like Anthony's perspective about Udemy, because when I want to learn something, I can just go pay a few dollars.
Yeah.
And learn something and then move on. With Pluralsight, I was paying $35 a month, I think it was, either 30 or 35. So I'm spending like almost $400 a year,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not using it. So it just
that's
makes
true.
sense to me. Even if I paid for two $10 courses every month, which is probably more than I would do at Udemy, I would still be saving a lot of money just by doing that. So
Yeah.
think about that, like before you decide you're going to go with a paid service, something you have to shell out money for every month. Just think about, do I really have time to utilize a service that much? Or would it be better buying stuff a la carte from a platform like Udemy?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah, I don't, and there's sometimes, I might go a month without touching Pluralsight. I use it all the time, but sometimes you don't. So, and that'd be, it's still a month you have to pay for, even though you got zero training out of it. So,
yeah,
good point.
Yeah. So hey, Spirit, it sounds like you're saying you understand the joins, but you're having trouble with the syntax. Because if you're able to just drop in the right one you want,
oh yeah, if you
that
know
means
inner
you
outer
understand
full.
Yeah. So in SQL, once knowing the understanding difference between an inner and a left and all that jazz is the hard part in my opinion. So you just gotta. My recommendation for the syntax, everyone's different. So in case you're like me, what worked really well for me in the beginning when we discussed imposter syndrome already, and I felt like I wasn't a good SQL developer because I couldn't just go to the keyboard and poop and spit out SQL. And I kept hearing people brag about old coworkers who could do that. Every day when I logged into work, I had a text file.
Then you looked at some of their code though.
No, I mean that person, that person probably was really great, right? But anyway, I had a text file and it had a bunch of things to do, and I don't remember exactly what it was now, but it was make a table, add a primary key, like deliberately don't put the primary key the first time, make a primary key, query the data, query a couple different scenarios, and I was doing it. I was doing the same thing every day, but for me, I'm big on muscle memory, so doing that over and over again helped me not freeze up as much doing those things. And then when I was like, okay, well, I always get confused with this or that, then I would add that to my list. And then I told myself if I spent an hour a day, it'd be fine. I actually never did. It never got to more than 20 minutes because half of it was stuff I've already done.
Yeah.
So just throwing that out there, Spirit. If your issue is you're saying you're struggling with the syntax, once you kill it at that test, which I'm sure you will, and you want to double down on SQL, just do a few things like we shared with you before. There's sites out there you can do it, or you can load up a SQL database.
Well,
absolutely.
And he's saying here, dropping $200 for that test, it sucks. But I think Lee, your next part is going to be about some free options, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there we go. Listen up.
So Grady, you mentioned YouTube, and it's a fabulous place, but
It's
I
also a
feel like
terrible place.
yes,
It's a
I feel like
fabulous
YouTube
wasteland.
is almost more dangerous than just typing something into Bing or Yahoo search or Google. So you, if you stuck with us this far, you heard at the beginning that I'm encouraging you to go look up Microsoft MVPs or Oracle folks or IBM ACEs or whatever they're
You
called.
get to the source of what you're looking for, not
Yeah,
four chains down. Yeah.
yeah, and look up those people on YouTube. It's a high probability that at least some of them
Yeah.
will have made videos on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
And
I'm sure like Microsoft has a channel or something that you can look at
yes,
their DBs or something.
they have a bunch of channels, which is kind of confusing.
Yeah,
But
it is.
yeah.
At least for me.
So once you start watching some videos from those folks that you know and trust, then YouTube will show you other videos or suggest other videos by those same people or by people who are adjacent to them in that technology area. So that could be a good way to get good recommendations. The other thing that you can do to find really cool stuff is in YouTube, look up
We had a visitor.
SQL Server DBA. Yeah, we did. Just put in quote or just look up SQL Server DBA playlist or C# playlist, Python playlist, and you'll get collections, playlists of videos. Look at the
I was
look at
gonna
the
say that
reviews.
brings up real quick the Twitter, not Twitter, Spotify. I use that for playlists as well for podcasts. I type in, C# playlist, and it'll go through all kinds of people that had looked different podcasts or talks on
Spotify.
Yeah, I listen to them while I'm
Spotify
programming.
has podcasts.
I listen to people talking about programming. I'm like, hey,
Okay.
fully immersed. But
wow. Okay.
But yeah,
there you go, folks. Spotify is a source for IT training. Who knew?
It's a little more difficult when it comes to talking about syntax and stuff like that because you have to visualize the page that you're writing.
Yeah.
But when it comes to our, some of the softer skills of learning, a concept, then it's like, okay, you can listen to it and they break it down different ways, depending on the person. But yeah, definitely check out Spotify.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so I have a number of playlists saved. I'm not a podcast person, which is kind of ironic.
Technically, now you are.
Well, yeah, that's true.
You're not a big consumer of podcasts.
Correct. I'm not a big consumer.
That makes sense.
But I am. So I'll cover for you.
There you go. Some companies offer free training videos, like Redgate University. So redgate.com has a section called University Educational Series, and you can Google that and find SQL Server training through them. I'm sure IBM and maybe Oracle have training links on one or more of their websites that are out there. Some blogger sites offer free videos. So Anthony mentioned BrettNozar.com, and he has free stuff out there. He has a ton of stuff free on YouTube.
And if you follow him, you'll see him put out live streams. Some of them will be saved. Every once in a while, he'll do one where he's actually teaching a class that you would normally pay for. And if you tune in, you get to watch it for free. And he won't save it. So, sometimes at 4 a.m.
Absolutely. There's also a guy named Eric Darling. So if you like T-SQL, you want to focus on, I need to write good queries.
Yeah.
Eric is a great person to do that with. I think the website is Darling Data. Yeah, darlingdata.com. He can be kind of heavy, cerebral. He can also be, I'm just warning you for anyone who would care, he can be a little coarse in the way he speaks or blogs, the stuff that he says in his posts or his videos. So just
As in
putting that out there.
language wise, or just abrasive?
Yeah.
Through his link,
Language
Eric
and
Darling
topic.
Data.
Okay.
Yeah, Eric Darling Data. Okay, thanks.
Okay, cool.
Kendra Little. So
I listen to her
Spirit.
podcast.
Kendra Little on a website that's not kendralittle.com. It's actually Little Kendra. And the reason is because there actually is another person out there named Kendra Little who already had kendralittle.com. Or at least I'm pretty sure that's the reason. If you go to littlekendra.com, Spirit, you will find videos on T-SQL, and there's stuff to practice on her website. She also has a series at Redgate. She used to work there. She just left Redgate to go to Microsoft to work on documentation for the SQL Server or Azure platform. So another great source. I'm really curious about the podcast on Spotify, so now I'm going to go look at that. Maybe there's SQL Server
Yeah.
stuff out there. I don't know.
I'm sure there is. Yeah, there's.
I mean, like
there's a
I
lot.
said, I listened. Well, she hasn't been doing as much, I don't think, but Kendra Little's podcast.
Mhm.
Yeah, she used to do Dear SQL DB or Dear DBA.
Yes, that's it.
And I loved those. I love
those
those
are podcasts.
presentations. Yes, that's true. That's
Well,
true.
and that's like tech talks and stuff like that. I mean, you can find
Yeah.
Or TED Talks, whatever they're called. But the
Yeah.
there's a lot of trustworthy ones you can go to and find.
Absolutely. So next category, place to find training resources. And of course, this is all SQL Server perspective. So I'm counting on Grady and Anthony to say, oh, there's this thing for this other technology.
So also, I had to look it up to make sure. SQL Data Partners is something I listen to also. If you picked up on that, Lee, that's a
SQL Data Partners. No.
Okay, so that's another podcast to listen to.
And I'll pull up my favorite.
And I won't be able to pull out the
podcast.
names off the top of my head.
Oh God, we disappeared.
Cool. Nice. So.
Oh God.
No, that's one I listen to all the time too. I just
we're not back. There we go. Sorry.
Now we're back. Now we're
What
not.
So we're good. Well, it's a whole thing.
We're fixed. Keep going, Anthony. What was that thought?
I don't know what just happened. No, they're I think they're consultancy, and they have
Okay.
not a meetup. What's the word I want to use? Bigger term than a meetup. What's the yearly conference? They have a conference. I think it's called SQL Trails. If I'm butchering this, sorry guys. I wish I listened to it today so I'd have the nouns right. But yeah, they're another really good one that I listen to all the time. And they'll orbit. You know how DBAs and SQL Server tends to orbit around data. It's not just about the database. They'll talk about Power BI and stuff like that. So at least I might be behind, but at least the last couple ones I've heard.
So sorry, I just realized that there's somebody I didn't have on my list for later. And I'm just kind of shocked that I don't have him in there. But I'll keep that a secret so that you'll keep watching to find out what it is I'm talking about.
Dun, dun, dun.
So
we're also going to be here waiting, so it's fine.
Free online conferences. There is a relatively new one called 8KB.
Love it.
Groupby.org, New Stars of Data. 8KB is fantastic because a lot of the training. Well, Anthony, why do you think it's fantastic?
I love it because at first, when you're learning about SQL, I feel like there's there's a reduced amount of information the deeper you go. At level 100, you can see everybody's blog and how to do a select to join, a update, insert delete. Like you'll see that everywhere. And then the deeper you go, the harder it gets. And then once you get past just knowing SQL and you want to know how the engine works, then it's, there's MVPs out there. But I personally like 8KB because it feels like level 300, level 400, level 500 stuff. Like I will watch it and I will probably only retain 20%, but that 20% will be valuable because it's real deep. And you know, that's why I like it. So it's not for, hey, I want to learn SQL. It's for, I just got into learning SQL. I love it. I want to know, I want to go deeper. Let me dig in. That's my opinion. I think that might be what they're going for. I assume because I've yet to watch one of their courses and feel like it was easy. I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. I like them for a similar reason. If I want to know how stuff works, not just how to write the C-SQL, but I want to know what it does, or if I want to know how a feature works under the covers, 8KB, you know, is a fantastic place to do that. They have people like, I'm pretty sure that Bob Ward has spoken at 8KB.
I think so too.
So for those of you who are in the listening to us, either watching your Discord or whatever, Bob Ward, I'm not sure he knows how to talk at the 100 level. That's not true. Anna Hoffman would strongly disagree with that. Anna Hoffman and Bob Ward create 100, 200 level series stuff for Azure SQL, for example. But Bob Ward goes really deep about topics. Like when he's the only presenter, people reach out to him because they want something deep and technical, and they want to know the nitty gritty of how something works. So I like it. Yes.
Bob Ward, Insight, SQL, weights, latches, and spin locks was a level 400 session at 8KB.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Just the whole spin lock discussion is a level 400 discussion.
I just dropped Steve Dev Tips with Steve Smith on the Spotify playlist, so I just dropped that in the chat as well. Yeah, it's
thank you.
You can find a lot in there. As I was trying to find this one, a bunch of others were popping up as programming, dev, SQL. I'm like, oh, there's a lot. So
nice. There you go, folks. Spotify has a ton of stuff, and so we got one link in there that will give you some of that information. 8KB is also has their stuff on YouTube. So if you don't make the live show, the live conference, go back and watch it on YouTube.
So where do you guys think? I'm curious here. What do you guys think podcasts fit in the learning curve? Because I kind of wonder if it's not great when you're still struggling with the 100s, but I feel like after you hit 200 and on, it's really good. Although maybe that's not completely fair. So I listen to a lot of the Linux podcasts. What's up, Jupiter Broadcasting? Because now because I get to use it a lot, but I kind of want to keep hearing that stuff to keep it in my head.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not fair. Maybe if you're not super good at something, a podcast is good to listen to if you don't get to do that, right?
I don't think it'll ever hurt. I mean, it may not be as useful for you. Let's say you're just starting out. You may not even understand what they're talking about. So it may be a little too over your head sometimes. But I think once you're in it at all, like let's say someone's getting in to be a SQL developer, and you know they just are starting to learn syntax and stuff. Well, even like basic things I feel like are always spoke about still. If we're talking about SQL, we're still going to be talking about joins and unions and selects, like stuff that you learn fairly newer to SQL. So they might expound on those or talk about something you have no clue about. But I feel like once you're to the point of understanding basic jargon, podcasts are like good to have in the background while you're doing stuff, you know.
They're also a good way. See, I'm totally correcting myself then, because they're also a good way to pick up on jargon. So you know, if again, like I was saying, I'm a big fan of Jupiter Broadcasting. I dropped a link. They have a bunch of shows, but I listen to them all the time. They hear the Linux stuff because I'm a fan of that. So there's words that they would drop that I would have to look up, but then now I understand that jargon, right? So yeah, okay. I stand corrected. I appreciate it.
Not corrected.
I mean, I did ask questions.
Your mind has been expanded.
There we go.
There is, so we talked about a little bit about AKB as a free online conference. Their stuff is on YouTube. I mentioned groupby.org. That was actually started some years ago by Brent Ozar, and then he turned it over to the community. They also put their videos of their conferences up on YouTube.
Okay.
Currently ran by a lady by the name of Blythe Morrow, Blythe. And I haven't participated as much as I would like to in this, unfortunately. But GroupBuy has good stuff, and it's usually 200 to 300 is kind of where they start. There is some 100 level stuff on GroupBuy. It's also New Stars of Data. So this is one I actually participated in. So if you go to newstarsofdata.com, there are videos out there. I think I was in the third one. So they have, I don't know, 9 or 10 different people who do presentations that are recorded and they post them out on YouTube.
I see player 4 has entered the chat. Hi, kitty kitty.
That's Java.
Hey, Java. I'm sorry, O'Grady talks smack about you all the time. You seem nice. Sorry, Cat
No,
enters the chat.
that's why it was named Java, because she's kind of a little shit. Never does what I actually want her to.
Good
so.
kitty.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, sorry. Cat enters video. I mention it. Go on.
That's totally fine.
It's necessary.
So yeah, New Stars of Data is a great resource. It's for new speakers, people who haven't presented at large conferences before, which I had not. I was speaking at, it just got my start this last summer actually, in SQL Server user groups. And so I did a presentation there on modern SQL Server features that make life better. That was the title of my presentation. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. Go look it up, watch it. It's good stuff. But there's lots of good presentations about all kinds of technology out there, all kinds of topics. It is, I should say, not all kinds of technology. It's within the Microsoft world, but it's wide ranging. So there was a presentation on AI and machine learning by someone, and just there's a wide range of topics out there. So New Stars of Data is a great option. Wanted to mention one more thing, and then I wanted to switch gears to our second topic, if we could do that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is paid conferences.
Okay.
So for SQL Server, there are things like Dev Intersection, and there's also the Path Data Community Summit. There is SQL Bits. There's Data Grilling. Data Grilling is a Europe thing. It's in Germany. SQL Bits is also a Europe thing. I think it's held in UK, but it's virtual.
Okay.
And you could, I'm not sure what their costs are this year, but you can attend it virtually. Tough part there is UK is 6 hours ahead of us. I'm not sure if Data Grilling is virtual. That's probably 7 or 8 hours in front of us here in the Midwest.
So is it by any chance spelled like grilling? Like I'm currently hungry hearing you talking about all the grilling.
Grilling.
GRILLEN.
Ian. Okay.
And they do grill there. So yes.
I mean, what else?
I'll go for that. Yeah.
So if you want to go to Germany, go to Data Grilling and get some authentic grilled food from Germany, you could do that.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I'd try it.
There's what about like the SQL Saturdays? Is that a nationwide thing? Is that a?
Thank you.
So, SQL Saturday.
Because I enjoyed that when we went. That was I
keep
felt
going.
like it was the right level for me. Yeah.
Oh, they have all kinds of levels there, and I keep asking them, like, how come that hasn't happened? And then I realize why it hasn't been happening.
Yeah, since the last time it happened.
Yeah. So, yeah, SQL Saturdays or they can be nationwide. Trying to think of the guy. Well, now it's still run through. I think Redgate picked up SQL Saturdays along with picking up the Path Data Community.
Okay.
Trying to think of the guy's name. Steve.
Oh, so SQL Saturdays are happening.
Yeah, so there is
Oh.
one. I'm going to turn around briefly because I need to look at something. Okay, so there is a SQL Saturday in October of 2022 that I'm actually going to try to be a speaker at. Yes.
City.
It's actually in Orlando.
Oh yeah.
I
You might want-
mean,
it's horrible. They're gonna take
Yeah.
a couple extra days off while you're still there.
Darn. Yeah.
I heard they have a mouse problem down there.
A mouse problem? I
Yeah,
don't know.
a mouse took over area about the size of the city and invited all his
Yeah.
friends and
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. Now I'm tracking. Okay. Sometimes it just goes right over my head. I'm like, what is a mouse problem? What?
No, I was just gonna let you go with it and just see how long it took. But
Oh, sorry, I
Nice.
didn't mean to.
Oh, that's all
reel
right.
it in.
Nice. So there's good stuff. Yeah, SQL Saturdays nationwide, or it can be. They're trying to get it revived. I think. Yeah, I think we're in a better place to be able to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Starting next year. So they
So
are
it's starting
trying
to get more interaction things going on. So
Yes.
I do
yes.
miss conferences, and virtual is cool, but it's not the same at all.
It's
Yeah,
not.
as an
Also,
introvert,
what's up,
I was
Dunce?
as an introvert, I was afraid I wouldn't like them. But when we did Dev Up, and
Yep.
Grady, did you go to the first Dev Up?
I went
I
to the
can't
one where there
remember.
was like the poker. We had poker afterwards.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Okay, me and Grady definitely went to the Dev Up at the same
Yeah.
Dev Up, and then I believe O'Grady won a lot of fake money at the casino night they had. That's pretty awesome.
I came out on top. It was like
That's right. Yeah,
it was like $70
was afraid to
million
say, I was
or something like that. It was There's two of us. We're just
why aren't we going to Vegas, man? Come
I don't
on.
know what happened.
Um,
We just kept. It was an amazing night. I wish it was real money, but
yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
wish I went, but I was still, I don't know. Like I said, I as an introvert, I was, really anxious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I really liked Dev Up, and then the SQL Saturday I definitely liked. Although I had the advantage of I've been working with Grady a lot longer now, and I was working with Lee, and so you guys were there. That was really cool because I went to SQL Saturday as a
Martin.
DBA.
Thanks for the follow, bud.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
thanks.
Appreciate it.
Woo. Someday we should get fanfare. Shh.
We did.
Yeah.
See it on the stream?
Oh, you know what? It did happen. Cool.
Dude, we have.
I'm looking at the wrong
That's the
screen.
thing.
And then
It's okay.
I also at SQL Saturday ran into somebody I know from outside of IT,
Mhm.
and it was one of those. You're a DBA. You're a DBA.
Wow,
So that was
Nice.
kind of fun.
that's funny.
Yeah, like I said, I
Yeah,
like that the SQL Saturday. It had different levels
Mhm.
of of knowledge. Like I went in, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of the base level, looking around, and those courses I took the intermediate one, I think it was like the second up, because then I'm like, this will
Mhm.
actually teach me and help me grow as opposed to telling me what I already know. And I felt like I got a lot out of those, and the classes, the lecture sizes were pretty small. Even the large ones were, maybe 200-300 people. So
Some of them,
still,
yeah.
so relatively small compared to some conferences, at least,
Yeah. Yeah, there was overall I would say there was a couple hundred people there. And with that kind of a smaller conference, you end up with, maybe 10, 15-ish people in your room.
Yeah.
So
Which for some of the talks is a plus. I remember one being maybe 6 people plus the speaker, and it was on continuous delivery and SQL Server, something along those lines. And
Right up
we
your
were all
alley.
able to just talk. Was that?
right up your alley.
Yeah. No, I remember there's 2 particular ones that are related to that, and so that we were able to ask questions and interact with the speaker. So it was great.
Yeah.
I think we need to make note
sure.
of that, by the way. That'd be a good topic for one of these weeks of continuous integration, continuous development in SQL and
Or period.
in programming, so that like how it ties
Yeah.
together with what I do and what you guys do. So I think that'd be
Yeah.
interesting.
I think we know someone who did a presentation on that.
Oh yeah, while he was practically had one foot in the grave, but yeah, it worked out.
Mr. Anthony. Yeah.
Yes,
There we go.
I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of CI/CD, and can you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
there was an adventure getting it into SQL, but we did it.
Right.
You were there.
So I'm having a conundrum. There was one response. Do we want to? We're having a good conversation here. There's lots more we can talk about on this topic. Do we want to keep going? Do you guys want to switch to the other topic? What are we feeling like?
This is your week. It's on you. You
Yeah, we're
decide
good.
if you want to keep going or if you want to switch topics to the advancing your IT career. That's on you. That's up to you.
Yeah, we can do it. I can. I my psychic abilities tell me you're thinking about switching, so let's do it.
Okay. Well, I could go either way. So
We'll
there's
pick
a
up
lot
this
more
discussion, by
information.
the way, in the Discord. If anybody has additional questions or anything, go to
Absolutely.
the Discord
Yeah.
and just straight up ask us, and it's fine.
Yeah. So if there's more stuff on training, just
That
talk
link
to us.
doesn't work. Hold on. Sorry. Continue. I'll fix this.
Put it out there, and we'll talk about it. We'll pick it up out of there. But there's a lot more to talk about in terms of how do I find good training resources. So go to the blog post that I put in the chat earlier, and there's more that you can read about. You can ask me questions on the blog post. So there's a comment section. You can hit me up on Twitter, hit any of us up on Twitter about any of these topics, and we'll be happy to talk to you about it. So the next topic is just how do I advance my IT career?
Oops.
How do I get the thing moving? And so
kind of depends on where you are and where you want to go. But keep going.
Yes, that's true. So recently I wrote a blog post on how I did this, and it's just entitled 6 Ways to Advance Your IT Career. And I can drop that into the chat. So there's the blog post. And here's what I did. For me, early on, the first thing was I needed to be able to accept or come to terms with the fact that long-term loyalty to my small or mid-sized company was going to keep my salary low and limit my opportunities.
Okay.
And we could probably have a whole podcast, a whole stream just on that topic, and tie it into even imposter syndrome. Grady's talked a little bit about how those two things are related.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested in that, look at our imposter syndrome stream. But that's the first thing. As a new career person, I was learning a lot, and I was super loyal to the guy who I had worked with for, at that point, like 10 years. And he and I still occasionally stay in contact. He was like the director of the unit I was in. I was working in a call center, which doesn't have anything to do with IT, but I promise I'll get there. So my boss was the director of the call center, and I was a call center supervisor. And there's a very important piece of software that ran the core of the business in that unit, in that business unit. I mastered that software and moved into a support role. Well, that person who was my boss continued to be my boss even as I moved into that support role. And he did a lot of great things for me. He was fantastic. If there were a scenario where I could go work for him again, I would absolutely do it. That right opportunity hasn't happened yet, but you never know. But that loyalty eventually ended up hurting me because I was like, but I don't want to leave this guy. He's such a great boss.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I did the number 2 thing on my list in that blog post, and I started looking at a website called salary.com. And I'm typing in salaries for the career path that I think I want to be on.
Mhm.
And then I didn't have to check my ADP payroll. I was like,
That,
that number on salary.com is a lot higher than mine.
yes.
Math was easy.
Yeah, the math was easy. And so I was like, I just thought if I stay here getting 3-4% raises, 5% at the most, I'm never going to catch up.
Mhm.
So I realized, it was time to move on. It's time to toss aside, my loyalty and say, I've got to do this. It was really scary because I'd been at this company almost 15 years. And
Yeah.
you can imagine the kind of like just internal knowledge you have that
Yep.
makes your life so much easier that you don't really think about until you land at the next place and you have no internal knowledge.
Oh, the first not
Yeah.
90 days to 6 months is so hard in a new company.
Yeah.
It is.
I'm sitting at 3 months in right now. 2 months.
3 months
2
already?
months. Almost. No,
Wow.
2 months. I guess. Almost 3 months.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't
Some
time.
amount of time Grady has worked at a new place. We're not
We
sure how long.
we don't hold you accountable once we get past the number of fingers you have, and I think
That's
you have most of your
fair.
fingers.
I think I have them all.
Pretty sure. Anyway, moving on.
So, well, I want to stop there and just like, what's been your experience, Anthony or Grady, about this idea of realizing that where you're at might be limiting you, and how did you realize that? How'd that realization happen?
Um, I can go ahead with that. Mine came really early in my career, honestly. So I started feeling it probably, say, about a year after into previous company I was at, where I was at probably the longest of my career. So about a year in, I felt like I was being underutilized or um, and
Mm-hmm.
not treated the same as other developers as far as progression wise and stuff like that. So it was an early realization, but it was one of those. The imposter syndrome kept me there. I felt like no one else is going to take me anyway, so I might as well stick as an IT job here.
Yeah.
And finally, moved up a little bit, and I got to a point where I hit a ceiling um, of progression for me that I could see. There was no path. It was, here you are.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this is not cool. I need to have a growth path, or else I'm doing something wrong. So, or in my career,
Yeah.
So, and that was the final push for me. And again, looking around at salary.com and Glassdoor and these other sites that tell you how much the average employees get paid. Hey, Cone.
Hey, thanks for the follow.
But yeah, after
Oh,
looking at
nice.
those, it was a nice little easy move after seeing what I should have gotten paid and what I was currently getting paid. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's not always an easy move, as like what Lee said. So if you were feeling, this wasn't your path, and that's good. Um, isn't
Yeah.
the other side of that is when you really this echoing what Lee says, when
Mhm.
you really like where you are and who you work with, but you gotta make that jump.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did obviously like I worked with both of you, so here we are still.
Yeah.
We worked it out.
Yeah, we figured it out.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, you
Dunton's
have to remember that any kind of interpersonal communications you make at a workplace, it can be carried on, and there's nothing to say I won't work with someone I've worked with in the past. So it's like,
Yeah.
just moving different places. And like
Yeah.
Dunce was saying, when they're upfront about the pay scale, that is 100%. It's really good because one, it shows that they're a company that values themselves because they know what they can pay and they know it's high enough that they can advertise it. So,
Right. That would actually be a great topic, is talking about pay, which
Three
Could
guys from
be-
we call
feel-
that three guys from the Midwest are terrified of talking about pay because
Well,
it's a
I was
conversation
just
we
going
have.
to say it could be a little uncomfortable, a little
Yeah.
scary, but it's interesting.
I think
so
it should always be in the open, honestly. But
yeah, so I have a story about that, Grady.
No disagreement from any of us, just awkwardness.
I don't remember how I found this group, and I don't even remember the name of it. I need to go look it up again or try to find it. But I ended up in, I think it must have been through Meetup. So I was in an online meeting, and the whole discussion was about pay and how to talk about pay with your coworkers. And one of the things
it didn't just say don't, because that's what it seems like everyone is saying.
no, actually,
that's what they try to say.
the purpose of the conversation was to get people to do it. And the reason, there are many reasons, but part of it was to essentially try to force companies
Yeah.
to pay equitably.
Oh, yeah.
So
if I knew how much everybody else got paid, I know how much everyone else is working throughout the day. So I would feel kind of like, hey, we need an adjustment going on if I'm on this low end, but I'm on the higher working end.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
exactly why companies tell
Mhm.
you, oh, you can't talk about that. That's actually not true,
Yeah.
but that's what they say.
Who was it that was in the news about that just recently? Was it Google or was it Facebook? Oh, I can't believe I can't remember. One of the big ones. You guys know the story I'm
Pretty
talking
sure
about?
they've both been in there about that, but I'm pretty sure, I think it's Google.
Someone had they had a chat group and they're all talking. It'll be like, imagine the three of us, and I'm like, hey, I make $10 an hour. And you're like, well, I make 12. And Lee's like, 35. And we're like, what? And then the people were talking about that. And yeah, whoever it was, you said you think it was Google, laid the smackdown and said no, and they shut down the channel. And there was a lot of hoopla about that.
Yeah. So that's a topic that we can talk about. But certainly it's relevant to advancing your IT career.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's eye-opening when you go to salary.com and you type in database administrator, in my case, and you look at the number and you're like, that's a pretty good number. That's partly why I got into IT. Somebody mentioned, I think it was you, Grady. I'm trying to remember what it was that you said, but it made me think about the fact that as a call center supervisor in the physical security industry, so like think ADT.
Okay.
Oh, so not like really big bouncers physically securing places. Understood.
Correct. Yeah. Me a bouncer. Sure.
Yeah.
No, you're in charge of the bouncers. It's all right.
Okay, maybe.
Moving on. Sorry.
I realized like I'm in a very narrow niche industry. And if this company folds, I'm in deep trouble.
Yeah.
And I even realized that as I moved into IT, the piece of software I was managing was very niche. It was still tied to the security industry. And I had a particular title that was tied to this piece of software. And no one knew how to pronounce the name of the software. And they didn't know what it was. So
Usually
that still
brand
was no good
recognition's
to me.
kind of lost there, but
Yeah. So I was like, I need to do something that's transferable, outside of the security industry. And that's what got me interested even more in database administration. I already was, and I was looking at things like, SQL Server reporting services and that kind of thing to help my business, my current employer. But the whole thing of I need to not be tied to this niche career.
yeah.
And looking at salary.com and the gap that was there, I was like, I can make some good money as a database administrator, and I would have a career where I could go lots of places, and I can't do that in the current role with my current title.
Yeah.
So
I can see that.
So those two first things are really kind of what got me started, accepting that long-term loyalty was hurting me, looking at pay and comparing what's on my paycheck to what's on the internet and seeing a big gap. So the next thing that I did was just focus on building my technical skills. especially, at that point it was early on, but I would say, and that's kind of obvious, but some people maybe don't really do it. They're in a good job and they're comfortable, and things seem to be going okay. They're learning, but they're not really putting in, and it doesn't necessarily have to be after hours, but I think especially early on, it probably, I hate to put stuff on people, but I just
Yeah.
feel like you're learning stuff during your work, your working hours, of course, but I'm not sure that's enough. Let me say it that way. Especially early on, I'm not sure what you learn
that's fair.
is enough 9 to 5.
Yeah, and we've had discussions about this in the office about people not wanting to put in training after work, and the training isn't for the company. The training is to help your IT career. So like,
Yeah.
Agreed.
yeah, I mean, if it's a very company specific type training, okay. If you're trying to have to learn an application that only this company uses, okay, that's on the job stuff. But if it's
Yeah.
anything that you can use somewhere else, you have to take it on yourself to know that you're benefiting your career. Do it in your time as well. If the company allows some time for it, awesome. But don't hold it against the company if they don't.
Yeah.
So
Don't hold it against yourself. You need to make sure
yeah,
you're taking care of yourself. If they
I mean,
give you time, that's a perk.
And we've all been places like, well, no, we don't really pay for training. Like, it's just a job. Okay, well then after work I have training to do. Done.
Gotta get good for my next cough.
Right. Exactly. So what did you guys do to build up technical skills early on? And when did you do it?
So I started electronics. So I used to program, microchips and very rudimentary programming.
No, it's really cool stuff though.
Oh, it's awesome, but it was
Yeah.
not anywhere near, .NET Core. It's not like those don't even translate anymore. It takes a couple steps to get from one to the other. But so I started off there, and then we move up to some basic programming. Since I was more on the electronic side at that point, it was programming that would have to do with electronics. A lot of it was. So we'd use like schematic builders and all kinds of different really cool programming things, but not so much sitting there and typing out code. And then when I went to go get my software development degree, that's whenever I was introduced more to, Java, JavaScript, C#, well, C++ at the time. But so I grew from there, but I didn't really use it as much for a couple of years. I was doing like we talked. I did building servers. The what are they called? What they call me? The systems administrator for all the more hardwire stuff. So my programming side that I really wanted to do never really came through. It was more real basic one-line things that I did every now and then. But once I got into the job where I worked with you two, that's where I started putting more work into myself in that field. Whereas before it was just, I know this stuff, but I don't really use it. I don't really care that I know it because I don't know what I'm doing with it. So once I found a place that actually I'm doing, actually doing that, I did a lot of, after work Pluralsight. I really tried to start ramping up on the basics again. So even if you think you know the basics because you were taught them and you've used them, getting those courses over again, like on Pluralsight, it really just kind of, oh yeah, that's what that is. Kind of does that whole refresher on your brain. Spend maybe a solid 2 hours a day for a couple weeks. Like that sounds like a lot, but it's your career. It's not, I'm trying to beat a video game or whatever. It's no. Sometimes I take big chunks of time. Use that for my long-term career.
And you usually get time like that in waves, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So if you're able to double down and put a couple hours in most days for a little while, and then
Mhm.
life gets out of control, that's fine. But you got to find those times when you can put it in. And if your life's just too hectic, because it's like that sometimes where there's someone's listening, and then they say, "There's no way I'm ever going to be able to put 10 extra hours."
Yeah.
Well, then what little time you have, do it.
Yeah.
Find something.
It's about pushing though, not doing the I have 30 minutes comfortably. It's no, you need to start making extra time because it's important for your career.
Yeah,
So,
maybe you miss, maybe you don't get to watch all of your shows, maybe you
yeah.
don't get to pick up that stream or whatever. You gotta prioritize. I know
Yeah.
for myself, there's been more than one time where I felt like I had to double and triple down, and I had to sacrifice a lot of the fun stuff that people cough cough I deserve. Well, if you want all the great things
Mhm.
that the 1% have, then you need to be able to do the things the 1% did, right?
Yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
push through and keep going, and actually, you have to do more than everyone else around you. That's how you get put ahead of people. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
And I want so that's a good that I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I agree with your statement. I think Anthony has a good point in relation to that statement, though, is that being able to do that comes in waves, or it can. And
Yeah.
so if you're watching this and you think, I want to advance my career, but I just can't right now, that's okay. What we're
Yep.
saying is if life is pressing you so much that you can't do it now, just don't put it on the back burner forever. Whatever it is that's in your way, once it's gone, circle back. The last couple of years have been super hard for everyone. The pandemic has affected people in all kinds of ways.
Mhm.
And there are posts on Twitter where some people are feeling like they maybe are permanently affected in ways that they don't really like. That's
Social
okay.
anxiety, that's
Yeah.
a huge one. I mean, I already had social anxiety, but this didn't help at all. So
Yeah, I imagine not. Some people are. Go ahead, Anthony.
I'll say the weird thing for me is like for a little bit, it kind of made my introverted nature a little bit better. We were we took the quarantine extremely seriously in my household. So like it was just me and my family
Mhm.
for so long that when they start pulling people back to work, and I know people have mixed feelings about it, but instead of I'm definitely one of those people that like if I see somebody I know and I like, but they're at like a Walmart way over there, I'll be like, oh cool, hope they don't see me.
Oh yeah,
But I found myself flipping that. Like I would go into work and I'd be like,